Following Premium Times' 2-year investigation, which came to the fore recently, there has been a publication. Of course, the Minister's office, Minister Uche Nnaji, has now denied the allegations of certificate forgery, saying it is something that borders on desperation, political desperation, and deliberate misinformation. But of course, the publication is saying pointedly that the minister did not indeed graduate from UNN, despite the letter issued from UNN in 2023 affirming that. And of course, a recent one from the UNN still is saying that he didn't complete his coursework and so did not graduate. But there seemed to be a yin and yang about this. Some people are coming to say, all right, we were in school with him. A yearbook has even surfaced online showing his face and that of others. And even there's a picture of him and another person where he was wearing a matriculation gown that he was there. Yeah, but then who do we believe? That, like they say in Bible class, whose report should we believe? Chukwuma from Okenwa is still here. What is the real problem here? Who should we believe? In 2023, he was running for governor. He was cleared by all the institutions, INEC, and of course he became a minister. He was also cleared by even DSS. So none of these things came out at that time. But Premium Times said they have done 2-year investigation, and they're coming out with this, that he did not complete his coursework, that he doesn't indeed have an authentic certificate from the UNN. And he says, he insists that he does. So what is this about, really?
Yeah, honestly, what I see the whole debacle about would be interrogating the credibility of our institutions. Yeah, because this, if you ask me, it's a very bold one from Premium Time. To indirectly challenge some of the clearances that Uche Nnaji has gone through, you know, for him to be cleared by DSS, cleared by National Assembly, and there's still like some uncleared effect with respect to his credibility and capacity to hold such a high office. Then that really leaves much than to be desired, you know. So I am looking at it from two angles. First and foremost, you know, why would, like for a very strategic position, such as Minister of Science and Technology, right? You know, so I want to look at it like based on two possibilities. If it actually turns out eventually, you know, through a competent court judgment, maybe affirming that indeed it's a case of forgery, then it's actually going to it should revisit first and foremost the issue of institutional integrity. Because we saw the same DSS raise up objection with the likes of El-Rufai, right? Now, if there is really like a concern that has to do with fraud, I mean, it's not...
There is, in the case of El-Rufai, it was security concern.
Yes, security concern. Now, when you talk about issue of fraud, part of the clearances would be that when a certificate is presented, all of the necessary background check, which is a color away, a document away, is performed as reasonably expected before the clearances. Otherwise, there shouldn't be any need of presenting any certificate.
Yeah, but
at the first instance.
Why do we have dark clouds over this? We don't know whether it will rain or not because there's no clarity. In 2023, I think from the registrar's office, they say, oh, that he graduated in 1985. I think that was the year 81 to 85. And then fast forward 2025. Oh, he didn't graduate, he didn't finish his coursework. One institution, two responses. Who's responsible for that?
So the question there now would be, for the 2023 letter, has the then registrar affirmed that the letter emerged from his office? There's another dimension to the whole thing. Because if we ever come to that point where UNN can confirm that the first letter indeed originated, and then it really means that if things doesn't really turn out well, then a lot of people should get into trouble as reasonably expected. Because I mean, for an individual to vouch based on institutional integrity that Uche Nnaji has a certificate, then it's one that the public is expected to believe in. If it now turns out that indeed it was a false report, then I mean, the institution must be protected at every means. And then individuals who took advantage of their position, right, and for whatever reasons, was able to compromise institutional standards, rendering our institutions incredible, should also face the dance.
Yeah, I mean, the statement from his office today, from his spokesperson, Dr. Robert Tungu, is saying that this is from political desperation and deliberate misinformation, obviously referring to other people. So is this a question of other people are making the minister look bad?
So, certainly not. I mean, the spokesperson should have done better. There is an issue on the table. You don't leave those issues to begin to attack persons. What is the issue? Uche Nnaji, did he get into UNN? Did he graduate?
The statement
yes.
is claiming that the minister is a proud alumnus of the University of Nigeria and Saga, UNN, where he graduated in July 1985 with a BSc in microbiology and biochemistry and in a second-class lower division degree. So that's how we put it. The release cited the 1985 convocation brochure, which it claims remains in the university's permanent archives as verifiable proof of his graduation. It further maintained that the only authentic correspondence from the university on the matter is the letter issued to People's Gazette dated December 21, 2023. That's the one we referenced before on the program.
Yes. So look at the challenge here. So for me, he referenced he has a BSc in microbiology and biochemistry. So I'm wondering, was there really like a time where maybe like an institution like UNN was able to like offer as one degree, right, for something that is meant to be like two courses, you know, because if it's meant to be like double honors, right, maybe what we could see is microbiology and biochemistry, right? It shouldn't be microbiology / biochemistry. That's if I'm to look at it, because I see this statement as now trying to maybe make a cover-up for something that obviously suggests something fishy. But like I will always say, when matters like this come up, there's an issue, and it's one that really wants interrogation. It's one that wants a conversation. It's a conversation we must have because the Constitution of Nigeria is very clear, right? You know, when you talk about, you know, issue of fraud, I mean, the criminal code, right? When you talk about fraud, it's and forgery. I think it should be like 14 years imprisonment, right? So it's something very serious that we should be taken seriously by all and sundry. So if you ask me whether the matter is being blown out of proportion, I would say no, because we are talking about a minister of one of the most strategic positions, you know, where Nigeria needs to meet up, and that is in the aspect of science and technology. So we cannot be, when other nations are, you know, focusing on issues of human augmentation, right? You know, eco-regeneration, you know, disruption by artificial intelligence. Then in our own instance, we are talking about a forge or a no forge. That to me is retrogression. However, that is our reality.
All right, so the statement hasn't finished because obviously the spokesman for the minister accused the UNN Vice Chancellor of cyberbullying And he said that he's engaging in what he described as politically motivated media trial. So, at the end of the day, they believe that there's something out there that is haunting the minister.
Well, one of the things I think really that honestly as a nation we are losing, and we need to be very careful about that. And that is the fact that if an institution that is backed up by the laws of the land and has all of the mandates to either declare who is the winner, to declare who has authentic certificate, whether it's NYSC, whether it's that of university, we speak. It isn't just enough. It is contextable because of possibilities, that some of those institutions could come under the whims and caprices of politicians. And it really calls for an introspection. Because if you ask me, in handling issues that has to do with NYSC, when NYSC says this, we should be able to take them for their word. If UNN speak, we should be able to take them for their word. If INEC speak, we should be able to take them for their word, right? But whenever we get to that point where an institution could be hijacked, right, and pocketed by politicians, then it's a problem. So, my concern here would be, first and foremost, that I think that perhaps Simon Otwai, like I know him, he's not going to be that petty. He's a man I can tell that when it comes to academic rigors, right, and being firm, he's got it. And I wouldn't expect him to be that petty for whatever reason. Howbeit, if it ever turns out that he decided to play politics on something that borders on institutional integrity, it's almost like maybe someone trying to protect his position as VC and destroying the first indigenous university, right? Then that would be a problem. I have a problem with that. And I think the Otoya I know wouldn't want to go that low. Because what would be reasonably expected is, even if you were to be used for the hatchet job, perhaps you resign honorably, right? Then, trying to engage UNN in such kind of a smear campaign, right? Just to satisfy some political office holders. So what I think, if you are to ask me, would be, first and foremost, I think Uche Nnaji actually have a case to answer. It does appear that the odds are just too many. For the very first time in all of the certificates back and forth we've had in recent Nigeria, maybe when you have both NYSC and the institution that he claimed to have gone, coming up at, quick successions to say, you know what, we disown whatever thing you are parading. And of course, in a case tender before the court, right, he also admitted, right, that for some reasons, the certificate was not issued at the end of the day. So none bothers on the question. The one you have, where is it coming from, right? Who gave it to you? So it's a problem.
But they are describing the Premium Times report as false and politically inspired. So, but the bigger question is, why did it take a 2-year investigative report from Premium Times for people to see that there could be issues with the minister's certificate? That is, if there is.
Yes, if there is, honestly. And that of course, the question of the why, it's a function of the obvious gaps that sometimes we witness in institutions that are responsible, that are charged with the responsibility of ensuring due diligence in certain areas. I mean, certificate issuing of awarding of certificates shouldn't be something that is done carelessly by any institution. It shouldn't be just something that somebody's name just jumping into a record. Same also with clearing someone, maybe whether at the National Assembly or the DSS security clearance, they should have done like all of the, the due diligence, because there's never a way, maybe if Tinubu want to appoint a minister, all of us will be able to have access to the information all at once to start saying, come on, there is a challenge somewhere. There are those that are doing this work on behalf of the Nigerian people. They are charged to do so because, one of the ways to get things done is there must be people amongst us who are charged with the responsibility. Just like we always say when we say security, it's everyone's business, but not be everybody that carry gun. There are some people amongst us. They are everyday citizens, like, when soldiers say, bloody civilians. Let's remind soldiers, you started as a bloody civilian, and if God keeps you alive after service, you end up as a bloody civilians, right? You just had that opportunity to serve the nation, for a while, and your service is not more important than some others, maybe serving in government hospitals, teaching someone to become responsible to the nation. Everybody's role is important because you know what? If a teacher is preparing people to be responsible, to have job security, that also will even reduce the work of the security agencies who, if they decide to just deploy full kinetics, maybe using of gun to deter crime, what about the human security that factors in food security? Because a hungry man is an angry man, right? Social security. When people feel they belong,
that's right,
they won't turn out to become the collective pandemic that we'll be trying to deal with by tightening up security.
But how do you think this saga will be settled? Do you think UNN will settle this, or do you think that finally the settlement will happen in the court of law?
In the court, certainly, because the simple truth is that ordinarily, right? Ordinarily, when UNN speaks, that should ordinarily be the end of the case. But of course, there is the court, right? And the court there is like the last stop. So we everyone, because to me now, indirectly, this is the UNN versus DSS and National Assembly that cleared him, right? So on what basis did they clear? Didn't they have to verify, right? Do they have to wait for some of those inquiries, the one that were made in 2023, 2025? How about the inquiry from DSS and National Assembly? Because the reason why those records are submitted ahead of time before you ask the person to take a bow is for you to just, you have all of the aids, you have all of the intelligence, at your disposal to do a thorough background check, right? And ask all of the questions you need to ask, including, okay, you went for service, where did you serve? Where did you do your primary assignment, right? Where is your camp even located? I don't know. I don't know so there are some things that when you ask somebody, I remember when we were in secondary school, if we go for school march, some of those machineries that will come, right? One of the easiest way, screening thing will just come. Call one guy that looks like a machine and say, what's the name of your principal? He said, I don't know. They said, step aside. Any child that don't know the name of the school principal is as good as not a student of that school.
It's a disaster.
You understand? So that's why there is a screening.
That's one of the things you have to internalize.
Yes, you understand? Forgetting the name of a principal. You can't. You understand? A principal is like a deity.
That's correct.
As long as you understand? Even if you forget any person that forgets who is principal, I don't care whether you left school 50 years ago. My dear, your secondary school, you understand? Whether you attended or not is questionable. So this is what really screening should have been able to do. And save all of us the stress of, you understand, all of this, because, for instance...
So typically this should have been avoided at this time.
Should have been avoided, honestly, right? Because there are institutions that we trust. But then our reality now is that we've come to that point where even institutional interventions do not help for quick resolutions. We still have to subject it to the court, right? To look at it and say, okay, you know what? Is this way? Is this? And the interesting thing is that once the court speaks, right? I mean, if they speak in favor of Uchenna, then he continues and everything is fine, even if, you know, there are still some concerns. But if the court comes up eventually and say, okay, you are guilty, even if he's guiltless, I mean, that stands. But I should think we must restore our institutions to that point that in matters of certificate contention, right, we should be able to trust our institutions that when they look at their records, right, you know, which they said, okay, allegedly, you know, UNA wanted to publish transcript maybe to situate their case that he got admission, but he didn't finish. They are two different things, right?
But I mean, I'm not sure transcripts are meant to be published publicly.
Well, when it comes to matters like this...
But the court hasn't asked for the publishing of that. My understanding of that is that if you need a transcript, it's sent to the institution that demands it. It's not even released.
Let me say something actually. When it comes to academic records...
That's correct.
I mean, come on. It's as good as every other record. We're not talking about medical record here. To what extent can someone, like, I mean, his certificate that probably is placed in different places, what we are only asking is, okay, if you made 2-2, by seeing your transcript, we should be able to justify, right?
How it around.
I mean, calculating of CGPA is an open process. When they also publish results in the university, right? You see reg number against, somebody can even calculate your CGPA and everything, I mean, from, you
I'm
understand?
Sure you still remember your reg number, I guess.
So yes, I do. If you want, I can tell you I do. So that is the thing.
Please don't say it.
Okay, see, before some...
don't say it.
Yeah, so that is the thing,
before
right?
One digit.
Right? You understand? So but honestly, it should really give like a consign, right? And really, cause let's restore our institutions to that point where their credibility is not in doubt. Because if we ever get to the point of having consigns to doubt our institutions, right? Then could it be that we could get to a point where institutions could actually award those who never went to school, right? And deny those
who went to school.
Because if an institution come up today, you know, like where I had my first degree, for security reasons I won't mention, everything happens now in Nigeria, right? And then if they come up to them and say, come on, you don't have a, right? You were never our student. I will go and start looking for my matric picture.
Yeah, and your classmates.
And maybe where I was celebrating when I finished. And then they will tell me it's not enough. I present my certificate. People begin to look at the color and all the rest to check.
And we'll be telling you if you're a cold-blooded student.
You know,
you were not really
you were not
active.
all over the place, right? And stuff like that. And some others even could begin to theorize, right?
That
you know, no wonder they didn't see you during convocation, right? I was actually wondering. Meanwhile, they have forgotten that what we are talking about here is over 20 years, right? They are trying to remember. So whatever be the case, what I would say is, because the matter is now, like, I mean, in the public domain, and the public deserve to know. He is a public servant, right? We deserve to know, and he should come out clean, you know, and he shouldn't see it, because the very interesting thing is, public has right to react, right? But then the interesting thing is that such matters are not decided in the court of public opinion, right? It's still like former court that, you know, of competent jurisdiction that's going to give verdict. And as the court pleases, right, we'll be pleased with whatever thing the court come up with. At that point, it is no longer my opinion or anybody's opinion, right, or like opinion of some political interest, but it's not going to be all about what the courts have said. So I think we are patient.
All right.
We want to see how all of these
the story is still developing. The minister's office issued a statement today. So the yin and yang will continue, I guess.
That's right.
Lots of information will unfold in the days to come. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
From Okenwa, Executive Director, Lead Network Africa. Thank you for coming on the Eastern Eye tonight.
You're welcome.
And that's the Eastern Eye for tonight. We'll be here tomorrow. My name is Alex Ogbodo. Thank you for watching. Good night.